Well, good day to you. It is May the 27th, and I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you happen to be. My name is Gary Willing, and I want to welcome you to Search for Signs. And as I always like to do, I just want to, let you know that if you want to know more about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, you can, of course, listen to videos that I put up. There's nothing wrong with that. But you really won't get a real sense of whether this is true for you or not until you branch out and start to investigate this in your own way. Read more about them. And I've included links in the description portion of every one of these videos that take you to websites that talk about this information in some way. I always encourage everyone to at least check out the Share International site first because you can get the best background information there than you can anywhere else. Now, if you want to come back and you want to join the discussion, perfect. Let me know what you think by posting a comment. Or better yet, if you have a question, hopefully you'll feel free to ask me that question. And the best way to do that is to post your question in the comment section. Or you can email me at searchforsigns@mail.com. All right. Let's go to with a comment and then a question. So, Alfred, what'd you ask? What'd you say? I really appreciate your contribution to my questions. Your answers were far more detailed than I had imagined. And I look forward to what you share with us next. So, you're very kind for those words. I know what you're saying also, too, is that I probably talk too much. Nothing wrong with that. I can own up to that I probably talk too much and probably try to over-answer some of these questions when I could answer them a lot simpler than I really do. But anyway, I appreciate your kind words nonetheless, Mr. Alfred. All right, now I have a couple questions. Gary, please answer. Do you have any information about Prema Baba, the third incarnation after Satya Sai Baba? Is he already born? And will he work together with Maitreya? Is there any master of wisdom in the European Christian Orthodox countries? So why don't I just answer that last question first, and then I'll get into the Sai Baba questions. Is there any master of wisdom in the European Christian Orthodox countries? And I looked it up, and the answer is yes. Now, what I mean by look it up, I looked it up, what were all the European Christian Orthodox countries? So one of those countries is Russia. There is a master in Moscow, so technically there is a master in at least one of the European Christian Orthodox countries. Now, according to Benjamin Creme, right before Maitreya entered London on July 19th, 1977, leaving his ancient retreat that he had been living in for hundreds of thousands of years, or 100,000 years or so, he left his ancient retreat and entered London on July 19th, 1977. But prior to that, there were 5 masters that left their abodes and went into major cities. With the exception of, I don't think Darjeeling is a major city, but New York definitely is, London is, Geneva you could say is a major city, and of course Tokyo. But the first one went into the outskirts of New York. The second one went into London, apart from Maitreya. The third one went into Geneva. The fourth one went into Darjeeling, which is in northern India. And it's not a major city, but it's one of the planetary centers. Just like a chakra would be to a person, it's one of the chakras of the planet. And then the fifth one went into Tokyo. And then not long after that, the Master Jesus left kind of the Syrian desert and went into the outskirts of Rome. And then another one went into Moscow. Now, there's not really much about the masters and their names. He only mentioned the Master Jesus because he said that was the only one he was allowed to mention the name of that master in that particular city. Now, not long after that, he was giving an interview on TV, and he mentioned 2 other masters in the United States, one on the outskirts of LA and the other one on the outskirts of San Francisco. And then in some of his literature, he mentioned a master in Beijing and a master in Paris. And then somebody asked a question about some master experience, and he said it was the master in the Ozark Mountains. And so, if you know where that is, that's kind of like Arkansas, southern Missouri, that kind of stuff. So maybe there's another master in there some kind of way. And then there are masters in South America and so forth. But those were pretty much the only ones that he mentioned. It's not to say that there aren't any other masters in other major cities, but those are the ones that he mentioned. So hopefully that answers that question. But like I said, one of them is in Moscow, so technically that's true. Now, if they're in any other Eastern European countries, I don't know. All right. Now, let's get on to the Prima Baba Satya Sai Baba question. Do I have any information about Prima Baba, the third incarnation after Satya Sai Baba? I have the same information that you could get from reading Benjamin Creme's books. Okay, so I don't have any telepathic communication with the master would have had to been able to answer that question better. I'm sorry, but there's only so much I can do. You know what I mean? Now, I was thinking about your question, and I started to kind of go through the numbers. His first incarnation when he passed away, and then before he came back into incarnation as Satya Sai Baba, was 8 years, if I'm not mistaken. And I also want to say, too, that I had said in the previous video, and I mistakenly said that he died in 2016. He actually died in 2011. So I apologize to those people who were listening to that video. I researched it afterwards and found out that I was incorrect. But anyway, so he passed away in 2011. So if he follows the same pattern that he did between the first two incarnations, then he will already have been born, and he would have been born in 2019. And then he announced himself as Sai Baba, the second incarnation of Sai Baba, the second of three incarnations, when he was 14. And then if he were to do that again in the same way, then that would be 2033. Not saying that's what's happened, but I'm just saying it was just kind of fun for me to think about. So take it for what it is. It does not mean anything other than it's just a mathematical, educated, possible guess. You know what I mean? But like I said, it was a fun question to kind of think about. Now, in terms of him working with Maitreya, he never died. He just went out of incarnation, and he left his physical body. The only thing that really changed from the work that he was doing was that his devotees don't have access to him physically. That was it. Everything else that he was doing, he was already doing beyond all that. And I don't think he lost a moment from when he was in incarnation to when he went out of incarnation. I don't think he wasted a single second. He was working moment to moment with the masters, even though he had just passed away. And he's still working with Maitreya, and he will continue to work with Maitreya because Maitreya is the head and leader of the spiritual hierarchy on this planet. So they don't have different objectives. They're all the same. They're serving the same plan, and they're serving God, and they're also serving man. And they're working as a group. Now, according to Benjamin Creme, Satya Sai Baba embodies the Christ principle on the cosmic level. Maitreya does it on the planetary level. Our planet is quite extraordinary because it's not a very advanced planet in comparison to some of the other planets in our solar system. But the planets that are slightly more advanced than our own, like Mars, to around the same level as us to less advanced than we are, none of those planets have a Christ. We have two. And it's not Satya Sai Baba and Maitreya, it's actually Maitreya and the Buddha. The Buddha was actually the first of our humanity to become a Christ. And, well, he actually was of the moon chain, but he became a Christ while he was on this planet. Maitreya is of our own humanity. So that's what makes him so special to us as a humanity, is he came out of our own humanity. He didn't come from another planet. But the Buddha, who worked through the Gautama Buddha, or the Prince Gautama, became a planetary Christ embodying wisdom on the planetary level. Maitreya embodies love. It's kind of like two sides of the same coin, love, wisdom. But anyway, he embodies the love aspect of God. But on a planetary, they both do it on a planetary level. Satya Sai Baba does it on a cosmic level. So it would stand to reason that he's more advanced than Maitreya, which Benjamin Creme said he is. He's actually very, very advanced. Now, his role, as best as Ben could describe it, was a spiritual regent. And what does that mean? Well, if you know anything about the kings and queens in the feudal system in Europe, it didn't always work out to where the king was coronated when they were an adult, right? Sometimes something happened, whether the king died, there was no queen, or the queen passed away and there's no king, whatever. And whoever the heir was to the throne was not of age. It might have been very young, might have even been an infant, not capable of ruling a country. And so they would appoint a spiritual regent, or a regent, not a spiritual regent, but they would appoint a regent to be kind of like a substitute king until that king came of age and would be able to rule the nation on their own. Well, he's a spiritual regent, according to Benjamin Creme, because humanity is not very advanced, not advanced enough to really learn from and benefit directly from the being that ensouls our planet, the planetary logos as it's described in the Ageless Wisdom Teachings. So he is like a regent for humanity. So where we can get the benefit of the soul that ensouls our planet, but yet on a physical level. And eventually we won't need a spiritual regent. All of humanity will be able to work with and know the plan of the logos and not have to have a regent in that way. But that's his role, according to Benjamin Creme. He's a spiritual regent for humanity. Quite an extraordinary feat for anyone to be able to be called a spiritual regent for the planet, for the being that ensouls the whole planet. I mean, that's quite an incredible thing. But he's not from our own humanity. He's from another solar system too. So, and then according to Benjamin Creme, and this is really the only information I have about his future role as the next Sai Baba, is that will be his last. But I'm sure it will be very similar to what he had done the first two incarnations, but humanity hopefully will be a little bit more wise to life, perhaps not quite as blinded by their devotion to this next Sai Baba, perhaps have more of an adjustment and more of a objectivity and more, ability to really learn from him in that way and not just take this mystical, blind, devoted approach to it, and learn more really what he has to say. That's what I'm hoping for. But like I said, my guess, if I just had to guess, he's already born and we won't know for a decade or so. But he will be working with the masters for sure, 100%. Because he already is working with the masters. So hopefully that answers that question. Now, I wanted to, there was a gentleman named Thomas who commented about my shorts. Now, I didn't really want to comment about the comment, but I wanted to talk about, first of all, why am I doing these short videos in this way? Because I do think they're important, because a lot of people on YouTube don't have the focus, the attention span to listen to a 30-minute video that I put up. So I'm putting up these little videos to hopefully be able to reach those people too, to get this information out to them. That's my purpose for doing it. And my intention is to do some where I am talking about the priorities of Maitreya, but also some of the ones that I'm actually quoting Maitreya, which I don't quote Maitreya very often. I mainly quote Ben's master. And then I'm also going to be doing some with, and I've already done some where I'm just doing little quotes from Ben's master's articles. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is not to talk about the intention of why I'm doing it, but it's to focus in on something that I wanted to talk about in terms of Benjamin Creme's master's articles. Is I read these out, and I've been reading them out for over a year, and I do a few a week here or there or whatever like that. And it's always important, and I always stress this, it's better to read it for yourself, because that way you can internalize what Ben's master said, and you can't perhaps get the whole picture from just watching a minute video with some soft music, some background, landscape scenes, and some of his words, right? It's best to dive into the article, right? And I always encourage you to do it, and you can do it by going to the Share International site. Is the first point that I want to make. The second point is, I had put up a little snippet of Ben's master's article coming from his article, The Pairs of Opposites. And I had this epiphany. And it might sound like a no-duh experience, because I talk about this all the time. I talk about the principle of sharing, but it really, I don't know, it hit me over the head. And that's why I always encourage everyone to read these articles for yourself, so you can internalize what his master is saying. You might not get it right away. You might get it months down the road or years down the road, like me, right? But I want to read it, and I want to kind of tell you kind of what I thought when I read this, for the, even though I've read this article before many times. I've read these words. He's said this same thing in different articles in different ways, and I knew it. I talk about it, but it just kind of clicked for me. But anyway, what did he have to say that just makes me want to talk about it? He said, the key to this development is aspiration. Indwelling in all men is the desire for perfection and the urge to express the good, the beautiful, and the true, the attributes of the soul. No one, however faltering in action, is bereft of this desire for betterment, however expressed. In no one does this longing not exist. Very powerful in its own way. But what the epiphany was that I had was, this is the reason why justice is so important. The other thing that I had never really paid attention to, and I put up, because with quoting Maitreya, he says his name for God is love, but it's also justice. Now, what is justice? We talk about it all the time. Maitreya says, without sharing, there will be no justice. Without justice, there will be no peace, and without peace, there will be no future. But what is justice? Because the only way that I really learned justice coming up was the way that the Americans teach other Americans, that justice is about the legal system. You harm somebody, you have to pay for the crime, that kind of thing. And it won't truly be just until justice has been served, right? I mean, that's basically what it amounts to. But that's not really what that's not at all what the masters are talking about. In fact, we'll find from Maitreya and these masters, when it comes to even some of the most evil or evil doers out there, right, that they will promote forgiveness, to forgive them, just as Jesus did 2,000 years ago, and it was written in the New Testament, talking about turning the other cheek, loving those who persecute you, those kind of things. That's what they will be teaching humanity about justice. And then at the end of the day, it will be about the karma that person has to pay back, not for what anything that you and I could do to help speed that karma along, if you know what I mean, right? But to forgive, to let go, to detach. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof, as it says in the Bible. One of the most profound articles that Ben's master talked about, that he wrote right before 9/11, actually. But anyway, that's going to be what they're going to be talking about, and what we think justice to be. It really is about forgiveness. And that's the most important thing that we have to do. That will bring about balance within the karma better than anything. Now, what is justice? Well, justice has to do with this. Every single person on this planet has this indwelling desire for the good, the beautiful, and the true. It has this longing for truth, this longing for peace. These are all attributes of the soul. And it doesn't matter who the person is. And this is what he's saying. He said this in different ways, right? That it doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter what language they speak. It doesn't matter how educated they are or how uneducated they are. It doesn't matter how rich they are or how poor they are, or how bigoted they are, or how loving they are as a person. That quality of the soul is within every single person without exception. That's what they're saying. That's the truth of life on planet Earth. And if you really look at it, the ideologies that we hold so dear in terms of the religious ideologies, they don't talk about it in that way. That's the one thing that really, for me, when I started reading this years ago, this is what resonated to me as being true with this information. That it's not about an ideology, it's about this truth, that within the hearts of every single man, woman, and child, without exception, on this planet, no matter what they look like, no matter how uneducated they are, no matter how evil of a person they're doing, the evil deeds that they're doing or whatever, this truth is within them, without exception. That's why justice is so important, because that every single one of us should have the same rights as everybody else: food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, and education, as a right, so that these qualities can manifest. That's the only way it's going to ever happen. It can never happen when people are dying of hunger. There can never really truly be justice on this planet when even just one of us is starving to death in a world of plenty. There will never be justice when people exploit other people. And those people are working, their fingers to the bone and to the death and making just a pittance. And others are getting rich off them. There will never be justice when nations, extract and exploit the resources from other nations, leaving those people bereft of the rights of the beauty of their own nation and so forth, and the resources that their own nation should be giving to them too. But the beauty in the principle of sharing is that every nation will eventually be able to give to the common pool for other nations to share, to use. It will bring about trust in a way that we can't possibly imagine. But that's justice. That's going to eventually bring about peace, true and lasting peace on this planet. Which, once that happens, and this is the thing that I think is so wonderful about this information and the truth about this information, is that once we do that, over time, eventually love will manifest on this planet. Without, it will happen all corners of the world. There won't ever be a part of the world that will be, that love won't be manifested. That's the future of humanity. Just visualize it. What would that look like to you? But the only way to get there is together, and the only way to get there together is the principle of sharing. I love you guys. You guys take care, enjoy the day, and thanks for letting me share all this information with you one more time. And I look forward to putting up videos in the very near future. You take care. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.